How can it be that in years, Linus Tech Tips, Hardware Canucks, and J2Sense haven't even mentioned Antec as a product brand, and now they're all mentioning this specific case, the Performance P1? We had to get it. We're also going to build here a budget PC with the 4060 Ti. So the motherboard we're going to be using today is the MSI B760M Mortar Wi-Fi. This specific one has 12 power phases. If you're not going to do overclock every CPU you're going to throw at it, you're going to get good performances. But we will be using the i5 13400F. The RAM we're using today is the XPG Lancer DDR5 memory with 5200 MHz, 16 GB for each kit, which means 32 GB altogether. For this kind of build, we would usually recommend using DDR4 instead of DDR5 if it's only for gaming purposes. The SSD we're going to be using today is the SN850X from Western Digital. It has a speed of 7300 with the capacity of 1 TB. With the price drops, there's actually no reason not to go with an SSD. As for the cooling solution, we decided to splurge and we went for the A400A. It's not really that expensive of a cooling. It does get good performance for the buck. You can stay with the box cooler that you got with the processor, but we decided to go a little bit bigger with the A400i from Antec.
So I had to steal the spotlight from Kalapus for a second because I really wanted to handle this case and try and use it for a bit. I think it's really great, and it's a really great showing from Antec. We're usually used to seeing more of a budget-oriented direction from Antec, but this time this case is a really great opportunity for Antec to show what they can do, and I really like this case, so I want to build in it. So here we have the inside of the case, and obviously it's usually covered with a glass panel, both in the front and in the back. I think the back side is a bit redundant, but that's the path Antec chose to go with. And we have 4 pre-installed fans. These are the Storm T3, a new fan from Antec. It's a 30mm thickness fan, and actually they feel really high performance oriented. And obviously this case is really performance oriented, so Antec chose to give you all the options you might want. You can go up to E80X and you have these really nice thick rubber grommets that usually in most cases they will probably dry out and start to dismantle themselves, and these feel a bit more rigid. The front panel is completely magnetic, and it's really nice to have a front panel like this that it's easy to remove with a mesh filter. And obviously you have a bottom filter for the PSU shroud, and it's sliding from the front, and I think it's a really nice touch. I usually really like that these filters are sliding from the front or from the side, because reaching them from the back is usually a really big annoyance. So that's a nice touch as well. And on the back side, that is also usually covered with glass. I think it's redundant. Again, I like my backside to be covered with metal and not glass. Glass is sharp and backsides are usually sensitive. You can see that the backside is also really well designed. There's a single screw here that holds the covers that are numbered, and I think the design is really subtle, and this reveals the cable ties and the place for the power supply. You can see you have a lot of room here, the drive cages, 3 SSD mounts, pre-routed cable ties with a scotch for all the cables on the right and on the left. And you can generally see Antec thought of everything, even the clearance up top and the place to put your cables. Like it's really nicely routed. You have a lot of room. So the last thing is the top side of the case, and it's really also a nice and thoughtful way to approach stuff, because the top is held by pegs and you can remove it very easily to reveal the filter. It's a magnetic filter, and it's really nice because usually the filter will be outside, and if the filter is underneath the top panel, it really gives a streamlined look to the whole case. And I think it's a nice touch as well from Antec. It's unexpected and it's pretty cool. Also from the top we can now see this panel is inhibiting a screen that can show you your CPU or GPU temps, and you can change temps by pressing this button. So this will use the app from Antec on the computer and will swap between the temperatures. You also have a Type-C, 2 Type-A ports, an audio microphone jack, and reset and power buttons. So because I stole Kalapus's thunder with the case part, I need to continue, and sadly, and we are now going to move ahead to the power supply. We're going to use the Antec Neo Echo 80 plus gold rating. It's a pretty great power supply. And the nice thing about it, you can see Antec is giving 7 years of warranty with this power supply. And again, it never let me down. So I think it's a great power supply option if you want to find anything that's usually a bit cheaper than the competition, but still gives great performance. You can see it's a fully modular power supply, and we're going to move ahead installing it. Check this out. This case comes with a little accessory box for your medicine, for your screws. So all you need it for medicine, go away. And you have a lot of spare screws here, and even a little tool for standoffs, so you can add, remove with ease, and you don't need to look for any special parts. Nice touch. So this is the build up until now, and before we put in the GPU, I really wanted to tell you how easy it was to build and get up to this point. The case is super spacious, and I really understand now why all the reviews are praising this Antec Perfrormance 1 case. Even up to the tiny little details like the front panel, Antec is doing the connector for the whole front panel instead of individual wires. Some people might hate it, but I think it's also a big time saver for, you know, people that don't really care for choosing their front panel connectors. And now for the GPU, obviously it's not in the box. This is the MSI 4060 Ti Gaming X model with 2 fans. And I want to say, yeah, I think like the GPU tiers is a bit messed up, and obviously it's NVIDIA's fault and not the AIB partner's fault, but I think this would make a really nice 4060 and not a 4060 Ti, but that's what we got. And in general, I think MSI did a really nice job here. It's a tiny and slim GPU, and it's really refreshing to see this approach again in GPUs, because you don't need amazing coolers for lower TDP cards. And it's not by any means saying that this cooler is not amazing. It looks great, but it doesn't need to be like 4 or I don't know, 10 slots. And one more very cool thing that I must note about this GPU, and obviously it's a bit tiny in this case, but in standards of like a few years ago, this used to be a big card. Now it's a tiny card, and one more thing is that it uses the 8-pin PCIe connector and not the PCIe 5 new connector. And I think it's a big plus, because these GPUs don't need the power to go like a crazy connector with tons of wattage in it, and this is surely enough. And right before we boot it up and see how this system is running, I gotta say the backside of this PC case is amazing. Even though you have a lot of room for the cables, and these cables are like all managed very well on the side, these covers make it look like super clean, and I really like how it came out. So we're done building in the Antec Perfrormance 1, and I think this build process was pretty amazing. Antec really did a great job with this case. Everything felt great, very high attention to detail in terms of Antec engineering, and I think everyone would enjoy having this case. If you're looking for a full tower, this case can accommodate whatever build you want or need. In terms of performance, I'm not going to run any benchmarks now. It's kind of late for this kind of comparison. Everyone knows that the 4060 Ti is not that far off of the 3060 Ti, but sadly, soon you probably won't even be able to buy previous generation cards, so you'll be stuck with either a 4060, AMD 7000 series card, or Intel GPUs, mostly the RX 750, that we think is a great card, but you know, it's not perfect yet. In terms of value, this card can definitely run 1440p gaming, even though Nvidia is targeting 1080p gamers. This can definitely do 1440p. It can do ray tracing in 1440p in some of the titles that we tried, and it can do 1080p with ray tracing in almost everything. And if you're getting this for more competitive settings in gaming, like you're going to run medium or low settings, you're probably going to get very high frame rates no matter what. And still, it's a great GPU that you can run in small form factor cases. It's very slim, it's not running hot. I think it didn't go over 50C in any of our tests right now. And it's very quiet as well. This system, extremely quiet. The 13400F, also extremely efficient, extremely quiet. And I hope GPU prices are going to come down just a little bit so we can enjoy better price to performance ratios machines with more efficient parts like these. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel at this stage of its development, and we really appreciate any comments that you might have. So feel free to leave a comment. Did you like the build? Do you want us to focus more on benchmarks and scores, or do you want us to focus more on reviewing the parts themselves? Let us know in the comments. We really appreciate and read every single one of your comments. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.